Board meeting to order at this time. I would ask that you please silence any cell phones that you have so that we don't have any disruptions during our meeting. And I want to also recognize Pastor Jason Moll from First Baptist Church of Kissimmee be here to lead us in our invocation this evening. If you'd please stand, and I will ask Mr. Long, as a veteran, to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance after that.
Let's pray. Father, I thank you for this evening. I thank you, Lord, that we can come to you. Lord, you care about the details of our lives, the details of this county, and the children and families that we're serving. And Lord, I pray that you give our school board and superintendent and all those involved wisdom tonight, Lord, to do what is best, Lord, in not just our own eyes, but Lord, in your eyes. We thank you, Lord, that you do promise to give wisdom and to help us when we ask. And so, Lord, we count on that tonight. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Mr. Long, if you would.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Pastor, if I can ask you just to stick around for one moment. When we're done with this, I want to come back to you if you don't mind. I know I mentioned it to you briefly. Mr. Pace, if you'd come up, though, for our mission statement and then dial you for translation services.
The mission statement for Osceola County Schools is education which inspires all to their highest potential.
My name is Dalia Medina. I'm here to provide translation services. Mi nombre es Dalia Medina. Estoy aquí para proveer servicio de traducción. Gracias.
Thank you. And boy, we are at the time for positive comments. If you'll indulge me, I want to just go first because I want to ask Pastor Moll, if he would, to just share a little bit on my behalf, and then Mrs. Horn, I'll come to you after that if you don't mind. The reason I asked you to stay, as you know, we have our faith-based partnership throughout this community from the school district, and First Baptist Church of Kissimmee has been an outstanding partner for us as a school district and really an outstanding partner for a number of our schools. And so I would just ask if you would just maybe just briefly share some of the things that we were talking about, the great things that First Baptist is doing in our schools.
Sure. This past year, we partnered as official business partners with New Beginnings and Central Elementary, and we provided mentors, bookmark buddies, and then during Christmas time, our congregation went out and bought Christmas presents for all the kids at Central Elementary, for those that would accept them. And so just trying to be a blessing to our community. On August 16th, we're calling it a backpack to school day for children at Central and Highlands to provide free backpacks, school supplies. We have enough for 1,000 children. And so, just don't want to just be a pretty building on the street corner, but want to be able to serve our community and let them know how much we care about them.
Well, with you being here tonight, I didn't want to miss the opportunity to express my personal thanks to you and Pastor Tim for all that you guys do. And he also failed to mention that there was last year I went to the church and there was shoe boxes piled up ceiling high and all the shoes that you guys were handing out and all those other things. So, Board, my positive comments tonight are that this faith-based partnership is the type of thing that we should be doing in this district. It's working well, and I think First Baptist Church is a great example of what we should be looking for. So I'd ask that you join me in thanking them. Thank you. Mrs. Horn?
Positive comment from Mrs. Luciano this afternoon. She did a really super good job. I wish that you had it recorded this morning because I would like for every employee in this district to hear what she said to the new hires today. She didn't mix any punches. She laid it out there what her expectations were. And Dr. B and Dr. Akes and Mr. Allen were there this morning. They give a good presentation also. So thank you for a good job.
Thank you, Mrs. Horn. Mr. Soto?
I would encourage staff, leadership, and everyone else to continue the good work, getting the schools prepared. We have open house this week for the rest of the week, starting tomorrow, and I think all the way through Saturday. And there's an open house as well.
Next week. Yeah,
Next week.
Next week. You can go tomorrow, though.
But you know what? And I tell you right now, I was just so looking forward to it. I said, the rest of the week is going to be great. But yeah, it's hard to wait for good things. And so we'll have to wait one more week. And like I said, let's look forward to that. It'll be a lot of fun.
I'm glad because I got nervous when you said it. I thought, oh my goodness, my schedule is next week. I'm going to miss all of them. So
for some reason, I think I got to be in these schools this week anyways. So I was hoping I could go ahead and meet some parents along the way.
They'll still welcome you. Yeah. Mr. Wheeler.
I've got a few. First, I want to recognize from Discovery Intermediate School, one of the teachers there, Ramses Kelly, who teaches there. He's taken his entire summer, all he's doing is working with kids at the YMCA. I mean, he's there from the crack of dawn until the place closes, just working with kids, and I really admire that. I want to recognize also Kissimmee Middle School, Osceola High School, and Celebration High School for partnering with Books A Million. I had to recently go in to get one of my Celebration High School students one of their books from the reading list, and they walk in and they've got racks organized by schools, and I was so impressed. I mean, it was easy to find what I needed, but it wasn't just Celebration. It was Kissimmee Middle School had their rack, Osceola had their rack, Celebration had their rack. It was very, very encouraging. And I want to recognize Community Relations for the fine job they did yesterday with the administrative back-to-school function. Great job, Danny, you and your staff. You're so good, you make it look easy. So we appreciate it. And we appreciate also Donna in food service, Donna Walters in food service. She did a great job with the brunch, and she ought to be serving at the Ritz-Carlton. Food it's as good as any fine restaurant. Finally, I want to recognize new principal Edward Jones from Osceola High School. For those of you who don't know, Osceola High School is changing this year from a 4x4 block schedule to a 7-period schedule. And he's come in as a new principal. I think he's doing the right thing. I think we're doing the right thing as a district, changing to a 7-period day. But he, for a new principal coming into Osceola High School, that alone is tough enough. To have this on your plate when you first come in, it's almost like climbing Mount Everest, but he is up to the challenge. He's a strong leader. He realizes it's not popular with everybody, but he didn't back away. He's talked to every mom and dad, and a lot of moms and dads who were upset after they talked to him, they walked out satisfied. So I think Edward Jones was a terrific hire, going to do a great job, a great leader. I've got a lot of admiration for him, and I've enjoyed working with him. I really appreciate the fact that he's come into a tough issue and he hasn't backed down. He sticks to his guns, and I believe that we're doing the right thing, and he believes we're doing the right thing at Osceola High School. So, again, Mr. Jones, you've got my admiration.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler. Mr. Long?
Thank you. First, I'd like to commend Mr. Cease and the Finance Department. I know we said this at our last meeting, but when we get the budget as a board member, I go over it, and the wife tells me the smoke detector's going off because smoke's coming out of my ears. I'm trying to justify everything, look over everything. It's got to be difficult. I think if a few of your people and yourself were not in that department, we'd be in serious trouble. So thank you again. I'm quite sure the board would like to thank you again also for the job you and your department's doing. That's number one. Number two, I was in a panic yesterday afternoon. There was a contract that came over as an email, and I wanted to look at this contract up close. And usually when I go on my first class email provider, I do it through the internet and not directly through first class. And I was in a panic running around the house. Wife had to throw a net over me just about because it wouldn't work on my laptop, it wouldn't work on my desktop. I could get it on my phone, but I can't read a contract through the phone. So I contacted Dana Schaefer, who immediately texted me back, and someone called me right away. And it was one of those IT geeks that, they speak a language, I just don't understand it. And they said, if you go to Firefox, it's going to work, try that should work. And okay, I hung up, and I tried Firefox, it didn't work. And then lo and behold, Tammy Otterson gives me a call back, and she jumped the lines of demarcation and went from human resources to an IT expert. She was able to speak English to me, I understood it, and I was able to actually work, go into first class. Now, I'm not the expert, so I'd like to let Angela Marino speak for a minute, because I think this is very important for all of our employees to understand how to get into first class now that we're starting the new school year. So Angela, the floor is yours.
Certainly. Thank you, Tom. What we have done is recently upgraded our first class version, which now has a web-based application that is much more user-friendly. So anybody can download that first class client to their home computer by following a few easy, simple directions. Our help desk yesterday sent out an email highlighting all of those steps to all of our district staff. It did come through on First Class. For anybody who is not receiving it from First Class and would like to have those directions sent, a simple call to the help desk, and we'll be happy to forward those directions to anyone.
Thank you. I have one more item, Mr. Chairman. Sure. It's not very often that another public servant gets recognized by a different board when he shows up. But I notice as he refers to himself as the UPS deliverer, is sitting in the back. Sheriff Hansel, I'd like to thank you for being here. Thank you for the work you did, especially reducing the gang violence and gangs in Osceola County. Please give him a round of applause for being here. Thank you.
I feel a lot safer. Good to see you, Sheriff. Superintendent?
Just a couple of things. I wanted to mention the Juilliard Summer Arts Program. They had a function last Saturday that was absolutely amazing. It's wonderful to have those Juilliard teachers come to our district and work with our children. And you can see how the children just continue to grow and expand their horizons. So that was wonderful. Yes, yesterday was the welcome back for our administrators. All of our administrators were there, and it was a great opportunity to share what our expectations are for the coming year. And thank you, board, for all of you going up and speaking to our administrators. That does make a difference. And then today, thank you, Tom and Barbara were there at the new teacher orientation. There were approximately 130 of them there. And they're ready to start. I mean, you can see the excitement. And I know that they will be going through 3 days of orientation, and tomorrow the curriculum and instruction assistant superintendents will be there to talk with them. And then I also wanted to share with the board that last Thursday and Friday, I was on a reactor board for the civics EOC exam. And I had never participated in something such as this, but I wanted to just briefly share with you what a great opportunity it was for me to be there. Just so that you know, initially teachers get together and look at the EOC exam in civics, and they determine what they think the cut scores should be for every level, level 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then the reactor panel, which is inclusive of superintendents and members of the community, sit down and look at some of those test items and has conversations in regards to what the educators came up with. So it's an incredible process in order to get the cut scores for each and every one of our EOCs, and I just wanted to share with the board. It takes a long time, but it's well worth the effort. So those were the few items that I wanted to mention. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you, ma'am. Board, we are at a point now, there are no presentations. We do have an appointment and transfer, so Superintendent, I'll bring it back to you for that.
Mr. Jones, would you come up, please, and introduce your assistant principal for Osceola High School?
I'd like to say good afternoon to Ms. Luciano and all the board members. I am very excited about this moment to introduce the newest addition to Osceola High School. And I'll be introducing a gentleman who really invokes the mission statement of Osceola County, which is education which inspires all to their highest potential. Mr. Andrew Jackson is an administrator that I've known for several years now. And he's the type of administrator that can reach the highest achiever as well as those who are struggling. He is an awesome educator, and again, I am excited to have him as a part of my team at Osceola High School. He's a graduate of Florida State University, Nova Southeastern University, where he got his master's degree. He was raised in the Central Florida area, educated in the Central Florida area, and again, he's worked at Orange County School Systems for the last 17, 18 years, the last 10 or 11 as the assistant principal for instruction. He's an awesome educator, and I believe in him, and I am so happy at this point in time to introduce to you Mr. Andrew Jackson, along with his wife and kid, and one on the way.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Jackson, if you would, there is a motion to approve by Mr. Wheeler and a second by Mr. Soto. Board, is there any discussion? Okay, Mr. Wheeler?
Mr. Jackson, welcome. We're looking forward to working with you. I'll tell you, you missed the administrator's retreat yesterday, so I'm going to share with you what I said then. I appreciate what Mr. Jones just said about you. My advice to you, which you probably already know, get to know as many of the students at OHS by their first name as you can. If those kids know that you care about them, they'll run through a wall for you, and that's what those kids need. They've got teachers who will motivate and inspire them. We need somebody who shows that they're going to care about them and that they really are interested in them succeeding as individuals. I know you got a big job, and I'm sure Mr. Jones has a laundry list of things for you to do. So we're looking forward to working with you, and that's all the discussion I've got, Mr. West.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson, before the vote, I do just want to say congratulations and welcome to Osceola County. I'm assuming that this vote will go the way that I'm anticipating, and we'll have another great administrator at the helm at OHS, so welcome to you, sir. Board, all those in favor, please indicate by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion does carry 5-0. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Board, we're at open for public comment at this time. I do have one that's been handed in. If anybody else wishes to speak, if you would, please fill out a yellow slip of paper in the back of the room and bring it forward. If not, at this time, I'll ask Ms. Dee Stevens. You're welcome here this evening, and I'd welcome you to come up and address your school board. You do have 3 minutes, and you know the process. The lights will be in front of you. Welcome, ma'am.
Dee Stevens, 218 Cedarwood Circle, Kissimmee, Florida. I'm here to recap again tonight. I need to rectify the Holly Hendricks case that was a school board case in 1998. Proposed funding is needed for me to get a lawyer to make a closure on this. I went in 2012, Malcolm Thompson was clerk of the court. My package was postmarked on March 19th, 2012, and this is nothing against Mr. Soto personally. It's just that he's on the school board, and he filed in January of 2012, and Mr. Tiffany was the one who handled the case, and he thanked him in a speech. And Mr. Tiffany, I recently saw at a judicial function and got all excited down there. See, the problem here is, generally speaking, you go to the school board attorney, in which I received a letter last September, but the cause of the action of the frame-up came from Mr. Brown himself, where at the time he was under the firm of Brown, Ward, and Van Leuven. I never met Mr. Ward in my life, and I never had a problem with Mary Van Leuven. She was a very sweet woman. I don't know why she left him. And Mr. Brown was that firm then. Sandra Pomerantz went to the court to smear me at a hearing and said that I didn't get along with lawyers. That's not true. That was a total lie. Mr. Brown came into this district from Brown, Kilgore, Perlman, and Stamp. I'm not going into this thing, but there's relevance. He had problem with his law partners. That had nothing to do with me. The Holly Hendricks case was a Thacker Avenue case, which Melba Luciano, you benefited from that case in 1998, and you got your administrative career launched. I look at the test scores, what's going on in this district. Somebody here is responsible at the helm, and something very bad is going on here. I would appreciate if the board could appropriate some funds so I'm going to write to Mr. Ramirez on my documentation I have from Malcolm Thompson. Mr. Sellis was an outstanding lawyer. I'm going to get I've gotten with the lawyer from the clerk of the court now that's handling them. But Mr. Brown has to take full responsibility for his misrepresentation and his frame-up. Now there's going to be a school board debate on August 14th at Valencia Community College from 5:30 to 7:30. I hope the public goes down and sees it or watches it on Access Osceola. I hope the next school board coming in is going to be a lot tougher and hold all the administration accountable so that the children do better. In 1999, Melba Luciano went to Monterey, California to put the bilingual program. District 2 is not doing good. District 3 is not doing good. Scrap the bilingual. You want to take language, take it in the foreign language in conversation Spanish, beginning, intermediate, advanced. Everyone should learn English. When Jay Wheeler ran in his first term, he said everybody should speak English. You never delivered, Jay Wheeler. You never delivered. And then the test scores will be better.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. Have a good evening. We appreciate you coming this evening. Okay, board, we're at a point, if there's no one else to speak. Okay, we'll move on. So we are at agenda modifications, board. I would point out for you, there is an item that's been blue sheeted. You've all been provided that information. And we will deal with that item under our first item under our regular agenda. Going left to right, are there any agenda modifications,
Good
Mrs.
to
Moore?
go.
Mr. Soto? Mr. Wheeler?
I've already added one item. I need to add two more under older new business. Doesn't really matter. One is college and career readiness. I talked to Ms. Luciano about it. That's something that came up yesterday in her presentation. And then the next one is homeless students. And then I'm good to go.
Okay. Just give me 1 second, if you will. Slow. I can't write as fast as you type. Okay, Mr. Long?
All right, if the chair has no modifications, I make a motion to accept the consent agenda as written.
Second.
I do want to come back, board, if you would indulge me, under action items, adoption of consent, board meeting minutes from our July 15th board meeting. If you'll just reference, if you have in front of you, page 8. It's not a big item, it's really just a clerical thing, but it does mention on there that I made the motion to amend the job description. And I didn't actually make the motion. I made a recommendation that there be a motion made to amend that. Someone else made it as chair. Obviously, I'm not making the motion. So if everyone's good, we'll make sure that that's reflected properly in the minutes and that they're amended as such.
Mr. Chairman, I believe I made that motion.
Yeah, I thought so as well. Okay. Okay, so board, with that correction, then at this point, we do have a motion by Mr. Long and a second by Mr. Wheeler on the approval of the consent agenda. Is there any discussion, board? Okay. Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion does carry 5-0. There is an information item. Board, Superintendent, do you want to cover that one first, or do you want to come to?
We should go
Go right to the blue sheet.
to the blue sheet if you don't mind.
No, I don't at all. Before we get to that, I do want to recognize as well, and thank you, Mr. Long, for recognizing Sheriff Hansel is with us. Also, Don Fisher, County Manager, is here with us as well as Jim Lentz. And I know that Chris Crow from our department has worked very hard on this as well and bring this agreement forward. So I just want to welcome all of you here this evening and thank you for all your work to bring this forward. Clyde?
Thank you, Board. Do want to appreciate your allowing us to blue sheet this item. It's noted that this went to the county commissioners last night and was approved by the board. Tonight we're bringing for approval the quad party agreement between the school district, Osceola County, the Harmony Institute, and Birchwood Acres. As you're aware, and I've brought this previously, we are swapping sites for our middle school, which is just below the high school site. I've handed out, and also on the overhead, we have a map showing the original site to the new site and where it is contiguous to the high school and where it will benefit us. There is cost to the district, $373,000 that would be part of the road extension. That was always agreed upon no matter which site we were going to. This is just a great opportunity for the county. I know that Sheriff Hansel and the county staff have worked hard on this with Mr. Lentz and Birchwood Acres and Harmony. We're just a piece of it, and one piece to make it all work was the relocation of our site. So with that, I know Mr. Brown's very versed in the contract, or Chris, if we have any questions or concerns.
Okay. Board, at this time, if there's a motion, I would entertain it. This is a recommendation coming forward.
I'll make a motion to accept as submitted.
Second with discussion.
Thank you. Board, we do have a motion by Mr. Wheeler with a second by Mr. Soto. Discussion, Mr. Long?
I think I made the second, but that's okay.
Mr. Soto did as well, but thank
Okay,
you.
that's good enough. I thoroughly investigated this situation. There was some individuals that charged that Mr. Lentz was becoming unjustly enriched via the taxpayers of the school district, and I can directly say that's not so. At least nothing I found, and I dug at this pretty deep, okay? First, I'd like to address a little conversation Mr. Wells and I had yesterday. One of the charges was that the property that was being swapped there was an elevation problem, that there was basically, we were swapping our high and dry land for swampland. And I asked Mr. Wells in the morning, I said, when you get an opportunity, go to Google Earth and we'll talk. And we did. And if you go to Google Earth, because I'm not an expert, but Google Earth is. And if you move that cursor over there, there's a little hand on there. And that hand actually shows the elevation of both properties. And in both properties, the old property that we currently have until this vote is completed, the elevation is 71 to 72 feet. The new elevation of the new property that, if this vote passes, is 71 to 74 feet. My concern there, of course, is if we finally do build a school there, how many truckloads of fill dirt do we have to bring in? That was number one issue. And glad you can, when I'm finished, you can confirm
Sure.
that was part of the discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Another part of the discussion is that, yes, we're getting more land, but a certain portion of that is underwater. That 6 acres is wetland. And I'm going to defer back to Mr. Wells to explain that situation.
Chris, you
please.
want to come up? And it's not actually a wetland, that's correct.
It's a low-grade.
It is a low-grade wetland. There's 6 acres in this piece. With that, we're compensating with a 100-acre offset for mitigation. And Chris, you know, being an engineer, can explain a little more.
Good evening, Board. Chris Crow, Facilities Department. Yes, on the site, there is a 6-acre area that would require mitigation if we choose to build on it. We don't have to if we don't want to. But
Microphone up a little bit.
excuse me, is that better? There is a 6-acre wetland on the property that if we want to use, we can. And to do that, we would have to mitigate for that. I've been in discussions with the Water Management District and try to get a feel of how many acres it would cost and what would be associated with that. And they do have a method of uniform mitigation assessment method that they look at, and they feel that with this 100 acres that's being offered as part of the Birchwood, that would more than enough to allow us to do away with that area. With any site and development, you typically need fill nowadays. And when you dig your retention ponds, that's typically where you get your fill. So the fill that we would need would probably come on site. Is that enough to cover it all? You don't know until you actually put the plans together. But again, from the wetland mitigation area, we did our due diligence there. And from the idea of fill, where would we get it from? We also considered that. And we would feel we would get it from our retention areas.
And I appreciate that. What happened during a previous board, when the high school was built, there was flooding problems in the auditorium. But the previous board approved that, and away it went. You can also, anybody out there in the audience, anybody in the community of Harmony or any place in the world can Google and find the gas line going through Osceola County. Now, to me, the gas line is not that big of an issue. I came from Michigan, and everybody had natural gas in their homes. And right now, I currently live from very close to a pumping station. So the gas line is not an issue to me. I believe that the state and everyone else has done their due diligence to make sure that that gas line is safe for everyone. But if you go to a website, it'll actually show you where the gas line is. The gas line is nowhere near this new site, and please confirm that.
No.
No, sir, it is not. Everything is north of 192. There's no gas line south of 192 in this area.
Okay. Two
Mr.
more.
Long, if I could, real quick,
Sure.
Mr. Brown wanted to address something you brought up
Fine.
earlier as well, if you
Fine.
want to allow him to.
Just very briefly, on the wetland mitigation, in addition to the 100 acres that Birchwood has agreed to put up at no cost to the district, the county agreed that if, in the unlikely event, some additional land had to be purchased, and we think 100 acres will be enough, that the county will allow the school district to get a credit against the $373,000 required contribution for extension of the road. So that's an additional backup for that.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Long?
Just a couple more quick questions. At the bottom of the email that Mr. Wells sent out, it said the school district will provide the county with an additional 10-foot drainage, roadway, sidewalk easement at no cost. At no cost to the district, at no cost to the county. That was kind of...
No cost to the county. Basically, what we're looking at, the county will be constructing a roadway in front of us, which is curb and gutter section. There'll be 36 feet of pavement. and that barely fits in the 50-foot right-of-way. We would like to have sidewalks along the front of our property, and that's the idea of this easement, to allow them to put a sidewalk in there to help our students get to the school that may walk down that roadway.
Are you saying the school district will be paying for that?
Yes, we typically, the county will maintain, typically
Have
with
any
all of
idea-
our schools, we build sidewalks as part of the construction in front of our school site.
Do we have any idea at current cost, I'm not asking anybody to project whenever we build that school, current cost for the construction of that roadway would be?
We've seen an estimate, Mr. Lentz's company consultant provided one. The road would be about, in our old site in front of us was about $1 million. That was our obligation before.
Correct. So the new site would be?
We're giving that $373,000 for that, so we don't have to build that large section of roadway.
Now, this is significant because, you know, I want to make sure that the district, that we are protecting ourselves. So we're coming up plus financially and land-wise and elevation-wise. The last question I have, because I went through the contract, you know, I'm not a property appraiser. I don't go by using somebody's best guesstimate or I actually went to the county property appraiser's website and put the parcels in there. And I'm satisfied that we're doing a pretty good deal here. And I appreciate Mr. Lentz doing what he can to help the Sheriff's Department, the county, and the school district and move Harmony forward. The last question I have, which probably will need more detail, is from our attorney regarding the contract. Can you highlight anything in that contract that the board would need to know?
Well, the contract is legally sufficient to provide you with the larger parcel, and the language is sufficient to give you all of the things you're expecting to receive. So the contract is well written, so I'm satisfied with it. I think what was important to me and staff is the fact that this is a different piece than what was originally discussed. It's 10 acres larger than what you have. It's 33 acres. It's big enough to, and given its location and its size and shape, you can immediately use it, or as soon as staff believes it's necessary, to enhance the athletic fields that go with the existing high school. And that still leaves enough room for on-site retention with the fill dirt availability from the retention ponds, and it still leaves room for a middle school. And because of the shape of it, more of a fat rectangle as opposed to a narrow, skinny rectangle, it's more conducive to a nice design and location of a middle school. And it's on the right side of the road, so you don't have to worry about a school crossing guard to cross Arthur J. Gallagher. It allows for the walkers coming through the tunnel to always stay on the school district property. So it just has a lot of features that led me to conclude it's a reasonable deal. You have a $373,000 contribution commitment, but you also get to use first dollars for wetland mitigation if the 100 acres isn't necessary, which could reduce that 373 that the county is hoping to get to allay some of their costs of the road extension. You've got a good provision in there that provides the school district with the option to receive right-sized utility lines for a middle school purpose. You know, I can answer any other specific questions, but I'm very comfortable with the deal. I think the county's getting a great deal as well as the sheriff, but this is a good cooperation among the parties to provide for a sheriff's training facility, and I think even tied in are some university opportunities to come in that were contingent on this happening first. So it's all in all a very good cooperative effort, and the school board is getting at least as good a deal as it had, if not better.
Mr. Long?
That's it. I thank all the parties that had to sit down and work this out, and it's to the betterment of each. Thank you, Mr. Lentz, County Manager, Sheriff's Department, and our
It's a well combed through agreement from Larry's office and all of the attorneys and everybody, our engineering staff and everybody, so we're very pleased with it.
Thank you. Mr. Wheeler?
I'll be brief. First off, you know, understand that we, right next to us, we've got a county where the school district and the county are suing each other. And so we have got a very unique relationship where not only do we cooperate with the county helped us open up another school in Point Siena. So we appreciate the cooperation, Don. That's why you're our Business Partner of the Year for this past year, one of the two. And Mr. Lentz, you've been a terrific partner from day one. I mean, I know a lot of people taking shots at you and shots at me for help for working with you, but you've been, you and Avatar, you were Tony Iorio walk in, I trust you right away. You've always done what was right for schools and education. And Sheriff Hansel, we appreciate your role in this as well. We're glad you're here, Bob, and you've been a great partner to work with from day one. So we are very lucky to have the relationships we have in this county because, as I said, just to the north of us, we got a county and a school district suing each other, and that's not that unusual in the state of Florida. Fortunately for us in Osceola County, we can all pick up the phone and call each other directly if we got a question or have something. We all know each other pretty well. So I appreciate the cooperation between Harmony Institute, Harmony Development, Birchwood, Starwood, whoever's involved with the gym, the county, and the sheriff's office. And we look forward to more cooperation, more collaboration as time goes on. And you guys are easy to work with, and we'd like to think that we're easy to work with too. And we're glad you're all here.
Thank you. Board, any other comments or questions? Okay, just one I was going to point out as well is bear in mind also in paragraph 8 we do still have our due diligence period that we can exercise as well, looking at the property if there were any concerns that came up during that period. Board, I want to make sure that you're aware of that because I know there were some concerns about some of the things even you mentioned, Mr. Long. And then I would just echo that. It's great to be able to work with our counterparts throughout this community. And Don, you've been an absolute great ally and asset to us at the school district, and I just want to recognize you tonight for that. I want to provide, if you're interested in getting up and sharing, you can. If not, I just want to thank you for the work that you've done to help bring this together, not only this project, but others that we've been able to work on. And as has been pointed out by other board members, when we can all come together and cooperate and collaborate, we all make the better decisions for the residents that we serve in this community, whether it's from the sheriff's office, the county, the cities, or from the school district. So I just want to thank you for that tonight. Okay, board, hearing no other discussion, we'll move for a vote. All those in favor, please indicate by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you all for your work, your efforts, and for working with us.
Now, you're all welcome to stay if you want to stay for the rest of the
Thank you,
meeting.
Board.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Brown, thank you to you and your staff for working on this so diligently for us.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Superintendent, information item?
Yes, Dahlia is going to do a presentation on our dual language program and sheltered instruction.
Good evening, Board. Superintendent Luciano, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with you all the wonderful things that we're doing with our dual language and sheltered program. First, I just want to go over our demographics. As you know, we're one of the highest percentage of ELL students in the state. We're second to Miami-Dade. We're about 25% of our English language learners. We're 57% of Hispanic population, and we have many schools that over 50% or 40% or 50% of ELL students in elementary, middle, and high school. I call it the 100-100 Club. Our students represent over 100 different languages, and they come from over 100 different countries in the center of Osceola. The biggest percentage of our students, though, speak Spanish. It's about 98% of our students, our ELL students, are Spanish speaking, but we have a lot of from Haitian Creole, from Brazil, Portuguese, from Arabic. It's a pretty international school district we have here. Today,
I've got a question, Dahlia.
yes.
This past year, the legislature passed with their accountability reform that an ELL student has 2 years instead of 1 year. So the question I've got is, even if a student gets past the 2 years, are they still considered ELL, or once they're past that 2 years, they're not? I'm just curious from a...
Yes, they're still ELL students, but what happens is that if the first 2 years, it doesn't count against the school grade, it doesn't count against the student, but they're still English language learners.
So I guess the question I've got is, let's say a child comes in kindergarten.
Yes, sir.
How many years, if they stay with us, I mean, are they ELL for the duration?
About 3 years.
They're considered ELL for 3 years?
About 3 years.
Okay.
Yes, because with Osceola is our comprehensive English language assessment test, and one of the measurable objectives is that the students are exited in 3 years, and we have passed that objective every year. So we are being successful.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to go over the dual language program. This is a program that was started in the year 2000 with Dr. Bresendine that wrote a grant, a 5-year grant for our dual language, and Melba Luciano was the principal of Thacker that started the program in the Kissimmee Middle, and we've grown in the last 14 years, and the goal for the program is to be bilingual, biliterate, and bicultural, because in this world you do need more than one language if you want to be successful in the 21st century. We also have what we started with as an academy. This is where we have 2 schools that if the neighboring students, it's a choice schools, so that in the area of St. Cloud, we don't have the dual language program, but if the students would like to go, they could go to Ventura. And in the area of Kissimmee Elementary, the schools surrounding Kissimmee could also attend our dual language program. What's the goal of the program? The program is to expose students to be bilingual, biliterate, and bicultural. Our goal is for the students to be competitive in the 21st century and to be competitive in the international world in pride and self-confidence and what they are successful. We have 2 programs. We have our two-way. This is where 50% of the students are English dominant and 50% of the students are Spanish dominant. And that's the program we've had since the year 2000. And we have several schools, and I'm happy to announce this year, Deerwood Elementary will be joining our program in kindergarten. The way we do it is we start growing. We start with kinder, then we go to 1st grade, 2nd grade, and 3rd grade. That program is the one that has been very successful. I'm going to give you some data on it later on. We're also going to have our one-way program, which is a new program, and this is basically for ELL students. These are students that are English language learners. And it runs the same way. Their instruction is in English and in Spanish, but all the students in the classroom are English language learners. And we're happy to announce that we're starting this program at Highlands and at Neptune Middle School. So it's the second time we're going to have the program in middle school. We were very successful with Kissimmee Middle. Years ago, we had the program up to 7th grade. And the students will be able to, in high school, take a 3rd language. And then we have many more students that will be bilingual, biliterate, and bicultural, and would get the seal of biliteracy that we started this year. I want to show you some data that states that our program is very successful. This data is from Kissimmee, Ventura, and Westside. It's 3rd grade, and it's their reading results. The first bar are all students in these schools. The second is our dual language students. Our dual language students have outperformed the rest of the school. And also you have our ELLs, because we have about 800 dual language students. Half of them are English language learners, the other half are English dominant. And our ELLs are doing extremely well in the program. What's happening is that they learn in their native language and they're able to transfer their skills that they've learned into English and do better on the FCAT. And then the last one is the L's that are not in the program. That is why we have, this year, we started piloting the one-way program, because that is the most effective program with our ELL students. Yes?
Hold the slide for a second. Can you go back? I'm looking at, you got my attention. English, in the middle, English speakers dual.
Right.
English speakers dual, that's a predominant?
The English dominant students, yes.
Okay.
On 3rd grade FCAT, they got 100%. 100% of the students in the program got 3 or above on the FCAT reading.
The question that I would have, it's really for you, Mrs. Lucy. Why aren't we getting all of our English-speaking 3rd grade students in this dual program if this is the result?
Yeah.
I'm just.
No, it's very valid. We continue to expand the program.
Mm-hmm.
You would not believe, and Dahlia and I have gone through this, and I'm sure Lisette has, you have to have the buy-in of your administrators in order to do something like this. Even when you're showing this data, Mr. Wheeler, you also have to have parents who are willing to put their children in these programs, including when you show the data. So it's a matter of we expand where we know that we have administrators who are willing to take this program and move it forward, and also having parents who are willing to put their children into this
Okay,
program.
explain to me, okay, I get that, I get what you're saying. So explain to me why an administrator would not want to embrace this when you've got this kind of data. I don't understand. Help me out with that.
I can't explain it to you.
Who can?
I think we would sometimes have to speak with certain administrators and have conversations with them one-on-one, which Dahlia, Lisette, and I have had, in order to help people understand the purpose of this particular program. Some individuals do not understand that being bilingual is important, and so you receive challenge.
You've got I mean, this is, unless there's something, this is empirical, irrefutable data that I'm being presented.
Mm-hmm.
And the administrators, last I checked, they work for you.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're
But
getting.
Mr. Wheeler, I will share with you what no one else may say to you.
Please do.
And that is, if you force something down someone's throat, they're not going to do it with fidelity, and they will not do it well.
Okay, so you've got administrators who have bought into this, who are getting 100%. I'm still trying to figure out why an administrator wouldn't want something that's proven to be successful, or is this a fluke year?
No, this is definitely, we have data year after year of our dual language students doing better than those children, as you can see, our ELL children, or even all of our students.
Let me just ask a question, because it kind of ties into what you're talking about. My question was going to be, when we look at this middle chart with the English speakers dual, and we see 100% at Kissimmee and Ventura, I guess my question would be, is how large of a student body are we talking about there?
It's how many classrooms?
No,
we're
it's
talking?
just, there's, at Kissimmee, there are 4 classrooms.
Right, that's what I'm wanting,
And
to bring
it's a
it down.
smaller group. At Ventura, there's 2 classrooms, and there's 2 classrooms at Westside.
Okay, so.
There are less students.
Sure, no, I get it. And I know
Yes.
it's not campus-wide. I mean, it's even indicated above all the students campus-wide.
Right,
So when we're talking about at Ventura, we're talking about 35 students or so?
yes.
And at Kissimmee?
At Kissimmee, we're talking about 70 students.
Okay.
Which is not a large
Mhm.
Yeah, but it still
It is a
appears, you know, I know that Mr. Wheeler wants to focus in the middle graph. I think you gotta take this whole slide into perspective. Clearly, the dual language is showing incredible gains in FCAT reading scores. I mean, this is and that this is, and I will agree with Mr. Wheeler, that this is maybe something that we want to go ahead and promote. And I understand what the superintendent's saying is that mostly, could that mostly just be that we have to just try to get the word out on how this is working and just do something more to get the administrators on board with it?
Well, I do promote it, and we go and I give shows, presentations. But one of the concerns that the principals have is our high mobility rate. So they're saying that the students have to be committed to 5 years in the program. So when the students, they start in kinder, first, second, and then they move, we can't replace them.
So basically,
Because, so that's one of the concerns that the principals have. And then the numbers, sometimes our numbers are lower in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, because if the student has to be bilingual, so if a student is English dominant and doesn't know any Spanish, and an English dominant student moves, I can't replace them with another student.
so what I'm trying to do here is trying to get, a little bit of an explanation for Jay,
Well,
if that is.
and it does start in our kindergarten. We would start in kindergarten with, say, 4 classrooms.
Right.
Okay, in first grade, we'll have 4 classrooms full of children. But by the time we get into second grade, they've moved
There are
out.
two.
So now we've
By
got
fourth and fifth,
two.
we have one.
And then
Yes.
all of a sudden, as Dahlia's saying, fourth and fifth grade,
Mhm.
you may only have
One.
classroom full of children because these kids continue to move.
So these schools, the administrators have concerns about the program.
There are, yes.
And that presents an
Well,
obstacle.
the main concern is the mobility rate, and how do we fill these classes after we get to the higher grades?
Because
'Cause
you're
in-
not gonna get the same data if that
No.
child is only there for 1 year.
Correct.
And with these particular students, there is a lot of mobility just across the board.
Yes, across the board, yes.
Huh.
Quick question, if I could, Mr. Soto. Does this, what we're looking at here with this data, does it translate across the board? You mean, you think that if we put this in every single school, we'd see the same results? Or do you think that there's some exception that we were looking at here that we might not realize somewhere else?
Yes, if you have the equal amount of English dominant, Spanish dominant students, you will.
So you think it would
Because
translate?
remember, these are the English dominant students. These are not your ELLs.
Right, no, I got that. But even the ELLs are still doing.
Even the ELLs are doing
And that's-
much better than inclusion, because that's the other option that we have.
So we've landed at a pretty good page, and obviously it's percolated some things. And I know Mr. Long has something as well. I had a note that I wanted to go back to. When we go back to the beginning slide and we talk about the demographics of the district and we talk about this program and what we're highlighting is effectiveness of this program, do we have anything like this that we're doing or we're looking at doing that doesn't only deal with Spanish? If we're looking at bilateral, bicultural, all
No,
of that?
just Spanish, because about 98% of our students that speak Spanish.
No, I
It
get
would-
that.
Then it would be Haitian Creole, then we would have to have teachers that are certified in those languages. If we were to have, let's say, Russian or Chinese, then the challenge would be finding certified, because all these teachers are certified to teach Spanish.
Sure.
May I also say that as you go up in grades, the vocabulary in that particular content area is very, very different. So
Yes.
in elementary school, for the first few years, it's basic terminology. But as you become more like chemistry or
It's very
algebra,
difficult to find
and
teachers
to find those
that are
teachers that have
certified in
that
chemistry
language,
and Spanish.
in both, yes.
Mhm.
But it can be done
If you can get the teachers.
if you can get the
Right.
teachers, yes.
Right.
That's not realistic.
Well, and the reason I asked that question is I obviously I understand the makeup of our community and what it is that we're dealing with, but I also understand, again, the makeup of our community and the fact that there are many cultures, and we are a very diverse community. And
Yes, we are.
if something like this works with Spanish, then why couldn't it work in another language or another area as well?
It
And
could
I
work,
know you're not
yeah.
saying it wouldn't,
No, definitely, it would work in any language.
but I think as we think about, I don't remember the term you used at the beginning of our presentation about being, multicultural and
Yes.
multilingual and multiliterate and all of that. I just think it's something to at least consider. So, and I understand the financial constraints, I understand the constraints of finding the right people to do it, and I definitely recognize,
Scheduling.
what's
Yes,
going
the
on.
schedule is
Scheduling of the
another,
children is a
the
problem.
schedule is another concern that the principals have. How to schedule the number, because these students have language arts in English and they have language arts in Spanish.
But just understand, this is a very compelling chart that you're
It
showing
is.
us.
It is, but it's not something that you can just say, do this.
Exactly.
This
Right.
is a serious conversation
And we
to
have been expanding the program
Right.
throughout the years.
Sure.
Mhm.
Mr. Long?
Well,
Thank you for your
I
patience.
appreciate that, I can't turn to the superintendent and say, do this. Because, I'm looking at the data, but there's probably a piece of the data that hasn't been presented. I've heard it, that this is a multi-year data here. Number one. Number two, mobility. Let's take two schools that are not on here, Michigan Avenue Elementary and Central. Two completely different elementary schools, completely different. The mobility rate is probably 500-600% higher, if not higher than that, at Central than it is for Michigan Avenue Elementary.
Yes.
So what's the data of those, if we just imagine for a minute, what would be the data of those two
Right.
particular schools? Obviously, Central would be a lot lower just because of the mobility rate.
Mm-hmm.
Why would a principal or anyone for that matter, want to invest a lot of energy and finances and hiring people and everything else to try and get this data when you know that because of the mobility, I'm not going to get it, number one. Number two, Barbara and I this morning went and we listened to Dr. Brizendine, and she has a way of commanding the room. She said something that was very significant to me. I've heard her say it before, that when she became a principal, she said, you know, what if I don't know how to do this? First thing she did was look for a mentor. She found another principal that could offer that mentoring. So I think this is an area where we could encourage, bring them on board without telling them what to do, but say, you know, maybe you could mentor these schools that are making grades. I've heard Mr. Wheeler say this all the time. Well, we can go all over the country and find programs that are working and duplicate that. I think that's where you're heading with this.
Well, what I did want to say is that we are expanding the dual language, pardon me, and we are expanding the one-way and the
one-way,
sheltered.
because that's
So
the way that helps the ELLs.
Because sometimes, as I said, you cannot just do this one program everywhere, so you have to look at other options that will work in other schools. So that's where I believe Dahlia will be sharing some additional information as to the expansion.
So thank you. The other question that I had wanted to ask regarding the academies you showed on a slide or two before.
Yes.
There's 2 of those set up currently?
Yes, it's a choice program.
And that's where I was headed. It's a choice program, and any parent, any student can request
Can
to go to
to
this,
request,
they
and
can be
we
a part of that.
provide transportation.
Okay. And then how's the word getting out on that? I mean, how do we let people know effectively that exists?
We
Just
have
curious.
we have tried that when the window is open, which is in the spring. We have a triad, and we put out information on this. So when the parents are going to the school to register, and we've educated all the people in the front desk that this is a choice that they have. Also, we have the Irish phone calls that go out and to inform people. We have a newsletter that we have that goes out, the multicultural newsletter that goes out to every school monthly to go out to the parents.
Okay. If all of a sudden everybody wanted their student to be a part of these academies, how robust or how large are they? At what point would we not be able to take anybody else?
Well, what we have is at the schools that they have the academies, instead of having 2 classes per grade level, we have 4 classes per grade level. So we could take in approximately 40 extra students.
Okay.
And the parents are very positive. They want the students to go to the academy. The issue becomes, again, transportation. When they're far away from home, if they have to be picked up, other issues that don't have to do with the program itself, because we do provide transportation.
Okay, and then I think my last question, at least at this point, is what is the message of how it's marketed to the community to let them know that this exists? Is it this is a great opportunity in a global environment, in a global economy, we're providing an opportunity in the school district for your student to be bilingual and
Yes.
biliterate?
Yes.
That's the message?
Yes, I have a flyer.
Okay.
And Dahlia, while Dahlia's doing that, also in our calendar that goes to all the parents, that's one of the choices as well that's indicated there.
Yeah, and I know these things exist. It's probably one of those things that I haven't paid a ton of attention to, and so I'm learning as we're going through this, which is part of the purpose of these. But also I wonder, it's all in the eye of the beholder. So how people are seeing and receiving this information will determine what value they place upon it, and whether or not they recognize it as something that will enable their student one day to be able to succeed in a global economy and really have the tools and the opportunity that they need to be able to do that. And I'm wondering if, as much as it maybe is lost on me up until this point, how many more people it's lost on that this may be an opportunity that exists right underneath people's noses and they're not realizing it. So.
And that's what I was referring to in any administrator who takes this upon themselves to have this program. They have conversations one-on-one with these parents in order to get some of the monolingual English or Spanish Because you may not be aware of this, but we have encountered it where our Spanish-speaking parents don't want them in a
Right.
dual language program. So then we have to convince them of what an opportunity your child will have to be bilingual, biliterate.
Sure.
So it really takes convincing and helping parents to understand what a benefit this would be.
Sure. And I can see some of the benefits. I'm not saying, that's why I asked the question, if we scaled this, how does it scale and all those things? I'm not saying that it solves all of our problems or that everybody should think that this is the greatest thing in the world or that every student should have to be a part of it. But if we have it, and I knew it existed at our schools. I mean, I've been at a number of them. I've seen it, but I didn't understand all the, where you're going with it, what's happening, and I definitely didn't see this data. So as pointed out, I mean, that is compelling. So this is good information. Mr. Soto?
Yeah, well, before I get to my question, I just want to make a comment on that. This is not really new information. This has been proven already over a decade or more on these programs and how successful they are.
I've never seen it presented like this.
Yeah. But my question was really just going back to the slide with Westside. You gave us the number. You gave us the N for the other two schools, and what was the number for the West Side? How many students were participating in dual language in that school?
2 classes.
All right, so that's about a total of 70?
Yes, I have the actual numbers.
So
I have
the sizes
Kissimmee-
between these 3 schools is pretty comparable, the number of students that were participating?
Yes. Yes, I have 331 students at Kissimmee. Thacker has 55, Ventura has 178, Westside has 152 students participating in the program.
That's a big difference.
Because Kissimmee and Ventura have the choice, so they have a regular dual language program for their zone schools, for their students, plus they have the choice program, so they have double the number of students. And some of these programs, like I said before, are that we start with kindergarten. So at Thacker, I think it's kindergarten, 2nd grade. So you don't have the upper grades, 3, 4, or 5. Westside is kinder to 3rd grade, pre-K. At Westside, we have pre-K students in the dual language program to 3rd grade. So every school is at a different level.
Thank you, Dai. I know you were still going through your presentation, and I hope that you recognize that the interest you're getting from this board is
I'm
really,
thrilled.
is a really great
Thank
thing.
you. Usually I say questions, no one says anything, I just sit down, so I'm.
If we're all sitting here glazed over, that means one thing, but if we're getting engaged, it might mean something else. So please continue.
No, then we have the math results. And I always get, if math is universal, well, remember that math has reading. Everything has reading, has word problems. So that's the data for the math.
Will you hold that slide just for a second?
Yes, sir.
So what's in the water at Kissimmee Middle School?
They've had the dual language program for 14 years experience.
Are you isolating why there's such variables, though, when you look at this, like Kissimmee, Ventura, West Side and Kissimmee are comparable? I mean, then you look at the ELL duals. I mean, the West Side's like 7. I mean, there's huge disparity in those numbers.
Because also remember what we were discussing about the mobility rate.
Yeah, no, I
also
get
the
that.
numbers
That's why
of students. So there's a lot of factors, and also the scheduling. And this program you have to run with fidelity. You have to give each language equal amount of time. And when you start changing the program a little, you lose the fidelity and you lose the results. Like there's 90 minutes of reading, so we can't do, 60 minutes of Spanish and language arts. We're gonna have to move it down to 30 minutes. And there are different factors that happen that will cause variation in the grades. And also the class. Every group is different. Oh, this is a good group coming in. The group isn't as good as last year's group. There's different factors. And different teachers. That's the other factor. We've always talked about ham it into the parents. This is a commitment. We make them sign a contract. You can't move your child. It's K-5. But then we forgot to do it with the faculty. So we train the faculty, we train the teachers. We have excellent teachers, and then they move. So an inexperienced teacher would come in and take over. So there's so many.
We need to get them to sign that same contract, right?
Yeah.
I get it.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That's why I said I get it.
All right, now we're going to go into sheltered program. As Melba stated, for the middle and high school, it's very difficult to get people that are certified in calculus and that are certified in Spanish. So what we're implementing this year is the sheltered instruction. That's when the teacher, the students, and we're talking about non-English speakers. Not all ELL students are the same. We have students that are at 3 basic levels: the non-English speakers, the limited English speakers, and the fluent English speakers. So the fluent English speakers, we put them in regular classes. We challenge them. But then what we do for the non-English speakers is we put them in sheltered classroom, where the teacher, the instruction is in English, but either a para or the teacher is bilingual. And if the teacher needs to use their native language to assist the student, they can. So it's in the native language. It's not that the lesson is taught, but if the student is asked to do an assignment and doesn't understand, the teacher could just tell the student in their native language, which is excellent support. Also, what we want is it's between working with students with the BICS and the CALPS, the basic interpersonal communication skills, which I call the playground English. It's the English that we speak every day. But then we have the cognitive English, that's the CALP, where it's the academic, and that's where our ELLs need the extra support. They don't have the academic language. Many people say the child speaks English, why they're not doing well on FCAT? Because they don't have the academic language. Just like the teacher doesn't have the academic language to teach calculus in Spanish, but he is Hispanic, but he learned calculus in English. So that's what we have to insist, that we help our students with their academic vocabulary, assisting in their native language. And we have to make content comprehensible. We have to use charts and graphs. They're all teaching strategies that are good for all students, but our students need it. Something as simple as labeling the classroom in English and in Spanish, or we could do it in French and Haitian Creole, so that the students know exactly what they're looking at. There's so many different good strategies that we are teaching our teachers so they could help our students do better.
Okay. Mr. Wheeler, and then I have a quick comment.
I'm just curious, I mean, for sheltered instruction, first off, do we have enough teachers to accommodate the student population that needs this?
Yes, because we're addressing the needs of the non-English speakers. The instruction is in English with the support. We have enough teachers that are bilingual. Well, our ESOL teachers, most of our ESOL teachers are bilingual teachers. They teach the language arts. Then we have paraprofessionals, and we do have staff members that speak Spanish.
So let's go to a high school, an upper level class like chemistry or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
where you've got a sheltered class. These are obviously, bright young ladies, bright young men, but their English is a little challenging. But the point is, by the end of the year, they've got to take that chemistry end of course exam. That chemistry end of course exam is going to be in English.
And that's why we do the concentrate on that academic vocabulary, on the cognates, all the strategies that we want to give our students so they could do well on the test.
And so, unlike in many instances where you might have intensive reading in high school, and you've got 20 kids in the class and maybe 2 want to be there, and the rest of them really don't want to be there and don't care, when you get into these sheltered classes, and I've never been in one, the student body that makes it in a high school, let's say, are most of those students engaged, or is it the same mix? You got a few kids who really want to do well, and the rest
They all want to do well. They all want to learn English and do well. If you go into an ELL classroom, all the students, we visited Parkway. We have STEM summer school. And the first thing that the ELL teacher told me was, these are non-English speakers. There's 5th graders going into Parkway, 6th graders. And the first thing the teacher told me was they were all engaged day one because the strategy was hands-on and they're able to participate.
Okay, but were those students, I mean, we're talking summer school, and, you know, in fairness, you brought this up, at Parkway Middle School, kids rising 6th graders in whatever science is, and it's great that they're engaged, but I'm just curious, the universe of students they targeted to be there, I mean, was there maybe 100 students that they targeted to be there and 20 actually said, yeah, I'll do it, and those 20 are, obviously, they're there because they want to be there, they're motivated, or it's a great teacher. Were there more students that we wanted to be in that program that you're talking about?
No, because we had the program for, just for ELL students, and we filled both classes.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Thank you. That answered my question.
Okay. These are the schools that we are targeting that have high ELL population for middle and high school to have the sheltered instruction. And how we're going to do this, we had a robust PD this summer in where we had a 3-day dual language institute, and we had 60 participants from all the different schools. And the 3rd day was all 100% in Spanish because it was the Florida standards in Spanish for those dual language teachers. Because our program, one teacher teaches in English and there's a second teacher that teaches in Spanish, and the kids flip back and forth. Also, we had last week a sheltered instruction for our middle and high school, and we had 50 participants, and I'm happy to say that we had several administrators also attend the in-service. And this week, we're training, specific training at the schools to Highlands, that they have the new program. We are doing individual school training on how to deal with dual language program and everything they need to know. I want it to be run with fidelity. So we give the information to the people day one. They know exactly what our expectations are. And that way they could fulfill it. And I want the program at Highlands to run exactly how the program at Ventura, the program at Kissimmee, because it's with fidelity. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And also, we have thinking maps, which is another strategies for our ELL students that's very effective. So we have thinking maps training going on this week. And in the fall, I'm going to have the ESOL paraprofessionals. We have to train our paraprofessionals to go in there and assist our students. It's very difficult for them if we don't give them the tools. So I have monthly meetings, and they're all professional developments, 2 or 3 hours of professional development every month. But in the fall, I have an institute for them in which they go to 4 or 5 different sessions and everything they need to know from compliance to curriculum. Nope. Why does it go forward? Well, the last slide that it's not coming up here is the slide that I had on all the resources that we have. I don't know why it's not coming up.
Can you maybe scroll down to it using the computer mouse?
Director of IT here?
I was wondering, do I need to go over there?
Tammy, you can take care of that?
Yeah, Tammy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Those are the resources that we have for our students. The number one thing that our ELLs need is time. It takes 3 to 5 years to learn your BICS. It takes 5 to 10 years to learn the cognitive language, the academic vocabulary to do well on the test. So what we do is expand their time at home by having Project FAST, which are netbook computers that go home with software, with math, science, and with a Rosetta Stone. We also have Rosetta Stone available for teachers, students, and parents, even for board members that want to learn Spanish so they could communicate with your students. So if any one of you want to learn, it doesn't have to be Spanish, it could be Mandarin, Chinese. Well, I don't know exactly. There's about 10 or 15 languages that you could select. So if you want to learn a language, we have that opportunity. But my goal is for the teachers to learn the language that the students they have in their classroom. Also, I have InSync Education, which is an online resources that give the parents an opportunity, for example, If the child goes home with an algebra problem, they could go on InSync, they could go into ninth grade, they could go into algebra, and it explains the lessons to them, the concepts in English, Spanish, and Haitian Creole. And it also, we also have college readiness and career exploration for the students to review if they like. Okay, and that's for everyone in the county. And that goes with a license for anyone in the audience too, as long as you're in Osceola County and you have students or you work here, I'm happy to provide you, right?
Yes.
I have a student here.
I took advantage of that one summer.
What's the web
Yes.
address? What's the web address for InSync Education?
It's on our main website on the lower left-hand corner. There's a video that Melba introduces the program and a direct link to InSync. And you log on and you create an account.
I'm not going to get a boy band.
Just Google Justin Timberlake or something.
Yes.
So the Project FAST, I just had a question about that.
Yes, sir.
Is this something that you coordinate with the parents? So
Yes.
they can participate?
Oh, we don't give the netbooks to the students. We make the parents come in. We teach them how to use a computer. We give them the programs. We sign them up to learn English themselves. And we make them sign a contract that they're going to return the netbooks in one piece at the end of the
Is
year.
that the first year that this is?
About the 4th or 5th year.
So we've been doing this for.
For a long time, yes. It's very successful.
Very good.
Dalia, great job bringing this information forward. Would you provide this slide presentation to all the board members as well?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Good job.
Board, any other questions?
No, I asked them.
Okay. Great, thank you. It's good.
Good.
Mrs. Luciano, you understand, when I see a slide with 100% pass rate,
Well, Mr. Wheeler, I know.
I mean, you got to expect that I'm not just going to
I know, it's okay.
Okay.
I know, I understand.
All right, board, we're under regular agenda items at this time for curriculum instruction.
Mr.
Board, what is
Chairman.
your flavor?
If there's no objection, I'd like to make a motion to approve A through H.
Thank you. Board, we do have a motion under regular agenda curriculum and instruction by Mr. Long with a second by Mr. Soto on the approval of letters A through H. Board, is there any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, under Business and Finance, I make a motion to accept I through L as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Board. Under Business and Finance, we have a motion by Mr. Long with a second by Mr. Wheeler on the approval of letters I through L. Is there any discussion, Board? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion does carry 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept M and N as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Board. Under Information and Technology Services, we have a motion by Mr. Long with a second by Mr. Wheeler on the approvals of letter M and N. Board, is there any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, under Facilities, I make a motion to accept O as presented.
Thank you, Board. Under Facilities, we do have a motion by Mr. Long and a second by Mr. Wheeler on the approval of letter O. Is there any discussion, Board? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion does carry 5-0. Superintendent, no recommendations this evening?
No, sir.
Attorney report?
Nothing to report, sir.
Thank you. Superintendent update?
Just a couple of things. One of them is that we are having the Discovery Education STEM Camp over at Parkway and Neptune. So if you can just drop by anytime between 8 and 3 o'clock, you would see children who are definitely working on experiments and very excited about being there.
Are they getting credit for the school year also?
No, it's only for this week, 4 days, 4 days. But that's what exactly what Dolly was talking about, that there's also a component for ELL students.
You said
And
what?
just, I'm sorry.
What times? 8? Oh.
9 to 3, right? I'm sorry, 9 to 3.
And where at? I was,
Parkway and Neptune. Thank you, Mr. Wheeler. He's got them.
I'm paying attention.
thank you.
All right, just a couple of other things I would like to mention is that we have summer graduation on Thursday at 7 p.m. at the OHS Auditorium. Anyone and everyone is welcome. We have the TICO and ALCO open house Saturday, and maybe that's what Mr. Soto was mentioning, Saturday the 9th at 10 a.m. And next week, we do have open houses. Our high schools are on Wednesday, middle schools Thursday, and elementary schools on Friday. But I'll send the board a reminder of the time and the dates.
Great, thank you.
And they are in the afternoon, after 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Thank you. Anything further?
That's all, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Board, there is nothing under old business, but under new business, Mr. Wheeler, you have Cigna and health insurance.
I got a few things. I'm gonna go out of order. I've got also I'm gonna talk about homelessness first.
Okay.
And I've got a handout here for that, and I know there's people here from Cigna, so I'm gonna get to you, I promise. Pass this down. Pass this down. Pass this down. I forwarded this to the superintendent, and because it is, we gotta make our reservations right away for this. And I don't want the election to impact it. Typically, I would pay for myself to go, but I think it's important that either Mr. Soto or Mr. Weissire go on this trip. And I think it's important for you, Mrs. Luciano, to go on this also. I'll get the $7.95 rate. This is a trip from the Orlando's Partnership, which is a fancy Central Florida Partnership, which is a fancy word for the Chamber of Commerce now. And they're going to, Houston had a huge homelessness problem, and they've been able to cut it by more than half. And so this is a trip of community leaders to go and see what they've done in Houston. Because here, bear in mind, we had 1,200 identified family in transition homeless students in 2008. We're over 4,000 now. So we've got a growing problem here, and I'm not going to suggest that we have all the answers and this will even provide the answer, but I think it's good to go, especially with other leaders from the region, because this isn't just an Osceola problem. So I would encourage, again, Mrs. Luciano, and one of you, you're involved with some homeless effort right now, aren't you? So, maybe, I don't know, you two decide, maybe you'd be the right person to go, Tim, but I think that there's a lot of merit and value to going, especially with this group. It's great collaboration. You're seeing things all the same time, and there's people there on the trip who can actually help, bring solutions. So I just think this would be time well spent, dollars well spent, for us to, see what we can do to tackle an issue.
A quick comment I would offer is the superintendent did mention this to me. That
Okay,
she
good.
provided the information that you provided. We actually just talked about it a little bit earlier
Good.
as well. And I actually meet with the Impact Homelessness Osceola Task Force tomorrow morning. And then I'll also have a conversation with Andre Bailey as well to understand exactly what the value we'll be able to extract from this from his perspective, being that he deals with this
Right.
day in and day out. I did check my calendar. I believe I'm available, that I may be able to go, and so I'll look at all those details tomorrow and see what the outcome is.
Well, yeah, I would, yeah, I just think this is time well spent relative to this. And I'll say, I've been on their last trip to Washington where they did some lobbying. The trips are well organized, and there's time for collaboration as well as time for hands-on where you're seeing real stuff. I mean, it is a packed schedule typically, but you won't be bored.
Okay, good, thank you.
Sure, that's what I've got on that. I'll go back to Cigna now. Mr. DeBoer, it looks like you've got an army of people here with you. That's good. I'll try to be as brief as I can. Our Cigna plan recently changed, I forgot what the terminology is, but with it, we've got providers who were providers who aren't providers, and some of those are primary care physicians that we've got employees going to who they either got to pay a higher premium or they've got to switch doctors. And that's who I originally heard from, was employees who did not want to switch doctors. And so what I am going to suggest, I don't think we've got a bad plan. I don't think we've got a bad provider. I've talked with people at Cigna. Is Mr. Murphy here? He's one of the people I talked to.
He says his apologies. He had to go to Virginia.
Okay, well, obviously he sent his minions. And that's one of the vice presidents that I did talk to. Well, one of the things that frustrated me was that I talked to an executive in their home office in Connecticut, and we're talking about it, and I'm explaining, I don't mind employees. She said, this doesn't make sense to me. And I shared that on a conference call with Mr. Murphy, and he was a vice president with Cigna. So my suggestion is, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think that maybe we can, I don't know how the rest of the board feels about it, an RFI saying, this is what we want to spend, But we would like to be able to have the flexibility that if there's employees who are going to a provider and they're part of Plan A and then a Plan B changes, where that provider's got an opportunity to enter the plan. My understanding is once the plan is set, it's set. And providers can't qualify if they're willing to meet a fee schedule to get in. So again, which is not a knock on anything that we're doing wrong, but I think that for our employees, we want a little added flexibility.
Okay, I agree with you 100%, and I had brought this up just 45 minutes ago, an hour ago, to the superintendent as well. Mr. DeBoer, if you would come up, because I want to understand something with this.
Mr. DeBoer and I have had this conversation, so it's not new to him.
Yes, sir, we have.
Yeah, and I had mentioned to you last week when I saw you that I had a question. I just hadn't had a chance to meet with you yet, and I really didn't know this was going to transpire the way it did. Explain to me just briefly, because I know I'm putting you on the spot because I haven't had a chance to speak with you yet. Just briefly, what is it that is precluding primary care physicians to be on the preferred list? Because my own doctor's out on that. That's not a concern for me. I'll just pay whatever I need to pay. But I'm hearing it from people as well, and I went to the doctor, and the same thing was raised to me: is, hey, I want to be on, but I'm not, and I have, 5,000 patients from the Osceola School District between family and siblings and whatever. So I just want to understand the landscape of what's going on and how we can navigate this.
Well, the Local Plus network is a tighter network, a smaller network of the larger Open Access Plus network that we currently utilize. It's part of the process and part of the focus of trying to move to a tighter managed network is savings to the district, but also with this program we're looking at more focused providers that are here to help us make our employees as healthy as we possibly can as well. So it's not just about the dollars, it's just we're trying to, but the dollars kind of come as a result of focusing on providing the best possible health care that we can to our employees.
Okay. What is the, and I don't know if it's you or Cigna, or maybe we just deal with this at another time, but what is the process, to Mr. Wheeler's point, because I had the same thought, is if at this point nobody else can get on our list, is that accurate, or can they?
Well, we
Yeah, the list is actually reviewed on an annual basis by Cigna. They're actually the ones that look at the doctors in their pool of doctors that they currently have right now. And you look at performance of those specific doctors over the course of the year. They review this list on an annual basis, and what they do is they'll extend to those doctors that to provide a history of performance for their patients. They also look at the costs that are passed on to the patient, and they also look at referrals by that doctor but to other doctors. So what they're trying to do here is look at a tighter network of doctors that have proven themselves or have a track record of success with patient care. So that's really what's going on here, and that's what the network is focused on. It's reviewed annually by Cigna.
Okay, so as it stands now, then, just to restate the same thing, there is no way for any additional doctor to get on at this point in time, not until point forward, 10 months from now, whatever it may be.
They review that list, if I'm not mistaken, Ken, believe that was January 1st. They'll be opening it up again, or reviewing that, and they'll be adding additional doctors into their...
Possibly, yeah.
Yes.
They're actually currently evaluating, and they've heard our discussions, and we've spoken with them, and they are currently taking a closer look or a reevaluation of our network, of the current network of doctors. But there is a possibility, at this point they're reevaluating, and they are looking at some of the, we've been discussing some of the top providers that are currently seeing our employees, and Cigna has agreed to go back and reevaluate, kind of pull those docs to the top of the list and make sure they're reevaluated.
And here's the issue. You've got if you get a doctor who's willing to agree to a fee schedule, and then if there's something in a referral pattern that maybe doesn't match what they want. I mean, give the doctors a roadmap and let them say, no, I'm not gonna make that change, or say, yeah, I'm willing to. I mean, but that's not, I've talked with these doctors and they call sick, and it's like, you know, it's like the steel curtain goes up. It's like they can't get anything. And so and then I got employees calling me saying, I can't go to Dr. X or Dr. Y because with the plan and I gotta pay more. I'm just, you know, it's very frustrating. And then, you know, then I talked to a Cigna executive in Connecticut who says, yeah, you're right, this doesn't make sense. And then I talked with the state contract administrator, young lady, and Mr. Murphy, who they were gonna get back to me in a couple weeks, which is fair. I mean, so I got about another week or so to hear from them, but it's just, and I appreciate what you're saying. We want to curb our costs. We're self-insured. They're the administrator. But if you've got docs who people are going to and they're willing to accommodate what we're looking for, or Cigna says, okay, you need to make this change. I mean, it's nice if they can get a little coaching. They're not getting anything.
And I would just like to comment a little further on that too. It's not really the employer's contribution to the cost. It's the employee's savings as well. Because if you have a high quality doctor that can treat it right away and nip the problem instead of ordering all these procedures, they're actually saving the employee money. That savings that then is passed on to the employer that's actually providing that healthcare plan.
I agree, and here's the irony was that the night that this came before the board, I wasn't here. It was the only school board meeting I've ever missed. It was because I was sick, so I get it. I have good health insurance, so it's still good. I am all for 100%. We had the workshop about saving money, and we had to make decisions in order to remain fiscally sound as a school district to make sure that we're doing what we should do. I want to make sure that's very clear. There is no, dissatisfaction on my part with that at all. But as we look to make these changes, I guess, as I think about it, I think, are there now repercussions that we're dealing with, or we're going to be dealing with, or more particularly our staff are going to be dealing with, that in the midst of this are creating more of a problem than we had really envisioned. And it doesn't mean that the decision made was wrong or was bad. It needed to be made when it needed to be made, and I can respect that 100%. But I think that there needs to be at least a logical approach to saying, okay, well, how can we make sure that others have availability and access to this? And I'm not 100% convinced. I don't know everything that Cigna does to analyze all these doctors to realize who's the best and who's not. I do know that there's an absolute financial component to it. I mean, it's a for-profit company. I have no problem with that. But I'm not 100% convinced that it's just saying, okay, well, these are the best doctors that provide the best health care, that achieve the best wellness results. It's that plus, and I don't know the pluses, and I'm making this up on the spot, but I'm just not convinced that it's solely based upon health care. And so I just don't want us to go in a direction that I think is ultimately detrimental to a lot of people if we can accomplish both at the same time. So.
And that's really what our goal was, and that's why we wanted to make sure that we still had another plan where the employee could buy up, where they could actually go see their current doctors that they're seeing right now. So it's just a buy-up plan.
Yeah, and in fairness, that's exactly what I've said to people, because people said, well, no, now I've got to spend this. And I said, look, I'm spending that. I mean, that's just part of it. If you want to go to your doctor, then we understand, but we as a school district can't continue to front the cost for everything at all times. There's a limited amount of finances that we have entrusted to our care, and we have to make the best decisions what we have. So that's not lost on me at all, and there is a point in time where we say, okay, look, we're providing a basic level of what we can provide here that we can afford. But there comes a point in time where we say, we just can't afford to provide anymore. I'm 100% on board with that. I just want to make sure that there's logical approaches to how we can layer things on, the accommodations are in place, and all that.
If someone's willing to accommodate that fee schedule, then I don't understand, nobody can give me an answer why it doesn't work.
Right. Mr. Long?
I'm very appreciative of fellow board members finally recognizing and looking at ways to improve the service we provide for medical benefits. I've been preaching about this for years. As I understand it, our employees sign up in October?
Yes, they do.
And
they'll sign up before that.
And it will actually start August 28th.
Okay.
For an October 1st effective date.
Correct.
Yes.
So if Cigna signs up, adds to their doctors' roles, our employees could sign them by October, and then all of a sudden, January 1, that doctor may not be any longer on the program. So we're actually behind the curve here. And there's nothing we can really do about this. This is Cigna's plan, not ours. We can't really control that. I believe what we can control by sitting down and talking with Cigna and saying, listen, here's where we're at. And that's why I like that buy-up plan. Again, finite numbers of dollars, but, and I'm satisfied that our staff is always looking at ways to save not only the district money, but our employees' money. We have to be cognizant of that fact every single time we sit down and iron out these contracts. Even if I had a doctor that said, okay, I'm in the program, for one reason or another, that particular doctor that I might have had for 20 years decides, oh, I'm done, I'm moving to Massachusetts. And they're still in the program. They stay in the program even when they move out of state. So I mean, we have to look at it all, and we have to make sure that our employees know that when you sign up in October, here's the plans, and I've seen the material that's put out there, and the cost ratios and everything else like this. As long as we remain diligent, going in the future, I hate using that going forward because it's everybody's selected. They always say going forward. But if we can keep a list, I know Cigna has their list, but it seems like I've seen their list, and it seems like they update it like monthly. And I don't know why that is. So I guess that's all you have to say on that.
Well, and I think it's important to note too, I mean, obviously, all of what we're talking about, healthcare and health insurance is on the lips of everybody around this nation, and a lot of these things that we're dealing with and we're having to respond to and private companies are having to respond to, in my opinion, is simply, a byproduct of extremely poor legislation that we're dealing with from a national level at this point. I mean, so that's not lost on me, that there's things that we have to deal with, and there's costs that are being layered into healthcare and insurance and all those other things as a result of that. But at the same time, I just don't like the idea that you're out, you can't get in, that's it, type of thing.
I've got, and I've got the same initial recommendation I have. I'm not looking to do an RFQ. I'm not looking to do that at all, okay? But a request for information, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we look at what we're spending now on our administration, which is Cigna, and we say, this is what we want to spend. This is what we have. We would like this additional flexibility. If nobody responds to the RFI, nobody responds. But we put in there, I don't know how the rest of the board feels about it. I mean, there's no obligation by us. It's not a request for proposal, not a request for qualifications. We're not suggesting we're going to terminate what we have, but I think we're going to, we give notice that we're self-insured. We're basically paying the bill. We've got an administrator. The administrator, we feel, is giving us a fair price. I get it. Well, maybe the price isn't as fair when we've got dissatisfied employees. That's my point. So the point I'm making is we don't want to spend more than we're spending now, but this is a piece of the puzzle we would like that we don't have. And I don't know if that's unrealistic.
And when we were talking on the phone, I shared with you, we did the RFP, went through the RFP process back in 2012. The program that Cigna brought to the table, their closest competitor was $1.6 million more expensive than the Cigna program. So those providers that responded at that time really had the opportunity to step up and try to compete with or beat Cigna out of the business, and at that time they were not able to do that.
I think in fairness, I think that's a good point, but at the same time, I don't know how other businesses haven't changed between now and then. And so, if you hold a $2 or $3 million carrot out there, I'm not, maybe you don't get any bites, but I bet you get one or two.
Yes, sir.
Sure. Hi, my name is Tom McGaffick with Arthur J. Gallagher, fortunate enough to be the benefits consultant for the district. So thought I may just go back a little bit and provide some insight on how we got here with the Local Plus network. We had some very difficult decisions to make with the insurance committee at the beginning of the year, facing some pretty significant increases. And I think it's important to understand that this narrow network that we moved towards was really not driven by Cigna. So it was a decision made by the insurance committee. So almost immediately the district could say, we don't want to go in that direction, we want the Open Access Plus network, and it would be back. Now the repercussion of that is approximately $2 million hit that we take. So when we were looking at this, that's really the hard part that we had to deal with was, do the employees want a $500 deductible or is a $1,000 deductible more appropriate? And that's about the change we would have with the change from the Local Plus to the Open Access Plus network. So I think it's important to understand that this is not an initiative that was driven by Cigna. Orange County Schools moved with one of their programs this way, Miami-Dade County Schools. So it's an opportunity for school districts and other employers to potentially find savings. It's supported by healthcare reform. We're seeing a lot of the health insurance marketplaces move towards these narrow networks. They're not perfect. There's not a silver bullet, but it's another strategy, and that's why we really, I think the insurance committee made the decision to move forward with it.
Yeah, but to your point, I mean, the beauty of these types of plans is the negotiated rates that people pay for different services.
Sure.
And if you've got a number of employees going to Dr. X, and all of a sudden Dr. X isn't included, but then Dr. X, says, well, I want to be part of it. I'm willing to commit to this fee schedule, and in the event, to whoever made the point, there's I think Todd did, there's a referral pattern for ancillary services, specialties, whatever, that's jacking up the cost on doing business with this provider. From what a couple of providers I've talked to, is nobody's having that conversation with them, saying, look, to be part of this, agreeing to the fee schedule is one piece of the puzzle, and that's encouraging, but there's this other piece, and give them the chance to even know that, and they may say, no, this is not going to practice medicine, and they're not going to be part of it. Or they say, okay, I get it, and I'm willing to make that, adjustment, but no one's having that conversation with the providers. So, it's like, this decision is made.
Sure.
And nobody can, and the providers want to play, nobody's given them the rule book to play by.
And that's frustrating. I agree with you, and I can't speak to that. I can tell you that I know that
That's
it
what
is.
the executive in Connecticut said, you're right, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
As a Cigna executive said that to me.
I can't speak on behalf of Cigna, but I can tell you that the metrics are around cost and quality. And obviously, that's going to be Cigna's job to articulate that. I know they're here. They can do a much better job, and I'm not here to defend their process. But I think it's important that you did understand, why are we here today? Why would we move to a narrower network? Because, really, without looking at really the background and the significant increases we were facing, it wouldn't make sense. But we're dealing with those 8 to 10% increases each year by doing the same exact thing. So that's what we're working to really combat.
And I'm just looking to keep employees who work their butt off, who are underpaid, and I don't want to ask them for any more money for insurance. If I've got somebody that they're going to, that they're happy with, and they've been going to, and their kids are going to, and their spouses are going to, I don't want to, that's part of the fabric of the way that they live their life, and I don't want to upset that if I don't have to. And the providers are telling me that, they're just getting stonewalled. I mean, they're not getting, they can't get any answers. So that's all. I don't know how the rest of the board feels about it.
Yeah, that may be helpful if Cigna can come up and address.
I would actually welcome it.
Great,
yeah.
I appreciate that.
And the biggest question, Jay, you may want something different defined, but the biggest question for me is, what would be the impediment to accomplishing exactly what Mr. Wheeler is asking for? I think that really is the key piece, is if there's additional medical providers that want to be part of this, what needs to take place to enable that to happen?
How do we get you to be more flexible?
Well, we have talked, the district has identified about 17 positions, the top positions that are not in the Local Plus network. We actually are reaching out to them. We're in the process of evaluating them. As Tom said, we're going to.
What's your name, sir?
Oh, Ron McClure.
Thank you.
I'm the Director of Contracting for
Okay.
Central Florida. So we are evaluating the physicians. We're going to take a second look at the physicians that were in the network. One thing Mr. Wheeler mentioned was that it's based strictly on fee schedule. That is one aspect of the total book that we look at, but we're really focused on the quality of the physicians. That's what we're looking at, the evidence base. There are a lot of different guidelines, and as I think was discussed, a lot of these products were based on the Affordable Care Act. So we developed these narrow networks to meet the needs of that act. This product is actually started on January 1st of this year, and it was developed originally for the Affordable Care Act, so the folks that purchased insurance on the exchanges buy these narrow networks. And as Tom said, it's pretty common now. This is something that not just Cigna, but other health providers are looking at.
Thank you. What about so you're working with this list of 17, and I don't expect an answer as to when you expect that they may or may not be able to come on, but understanding process, if out of these 17, 10 of them meet whatever the criteria is, at what point would they be available through the current setup?
It would be January 1st.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're in the process now of looking at that, and like I said, we look at quality. That's the first thing we look at, and then we also look at the total medical costs, not just the fee schedule. That's certainly a big part of it, but also where are they referring to the best hospitals, the best diagnostic centers, surgery centers, that sort of thing.
Well, and to that end, I mean, so in the event, let's say you've got a doctor who is considered high quality, but they're not meeting those standards. Are you coaching them through saying, you know, part of it is you're referring to X and we need you to refer to Y for cost and for quality and et cetera? And they may say, no, I'm not going to because I'm comfortable dealing with X. But I mean, are you giving these guys that roadmap, or are you just doing this evaluation and it's done in a vacuum where they don't know when and how or where or why, other than they're asked a few questions, they answer them, and then you're going off and doing your metrics to do the evaluation, and they're not given the chance to respond to that one way or the other. And so I guess that's what I don't know. And I don't know if you know either, but that's a question I've got.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a fair question, and we do actually want to work with our providers. We're for the ones that this district's identified, for example, we're going to reach out to them, have discussions with them, talk about what the guideline, what the program is meant to be, and how what quality metrics we look at.
Okay, so you're going to let these guys have a roadmap, and they're going to say, I want to play or I don't want to play.
Yeah, one thing I would like to add here too, I'm going to jump in here too, that was just shared with me by the Cigna reps, is that this is a relatively new program. This program's only been in effect for 1 year now. And again, it's going to continue to grow. And hopefully we'll be providing more, adding more doctors to this plan as they put the processes in place as they go through this review process. That's one of the things I want to stress here. So I did want to go back to, Mr. Long had a question that he asked as well, and that was have you seen where a doctor maybe gets on a plan and maybe the next year that they'll drop off that plan? Is that a possibility?
Absolutely, yeah. There are, as we evaluate, some of the physicians are no longer going to meet the criteria for being in the network. So there are a variety of attributes we look at. It's not a strict formula where it's, there are different factors that we look at to see if they're in or out of the network.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest concern, I'm not worried about the docs,
Right.
but I got employees who are, can barely scrape together what they can scrape together to make, and we can't pay them enough, and then I'm getting phone calls. I got a doctor I've been going to for the last 2, 3, 4 years, and now it's going to cost me more, or I can't go, and and I can't say anything. I've got, I want to help these people with their quality of life, and do everything I can for them, and now I'm pulling, some of them and saying you're pulling the rug out from under me, and it's very frustrating when these are hardworking people who've made a choice to work with our children and to do it for less money than a lot of people would do a lot of other things, and here's something that was part of their plan for X number of years, and now it's not. It's and there's no answers or solutions really when you come down to it, and that's frustrating because there's a solution to everything except this.
Before I get to Mrs. Horn, the 17 that you've mentioned, how are they identified? Did you guys identify them, or are these 17 that came to you guys and requested that they want to be considered, or how does that process work?
Yeah, we actually, it was a list that we had from the district, is that correct? Yes.
It was a list that we actually had of the top. We have 2 lists actually based on dollars spent and number of visits that each provider was, so we've sorted them by that.
Okay.
It's called a disruption report.
Okay.
Disruption.
Disruption.
Okay.
Well, that should be a short report.
And are the 17 the top 17? Is that what you're doing? Okay. Mrs. Horn?
Well, it may not be the exact 17, but it's in the top group or the highly utilized doctors that are not currently in.
Guys, try to find a way for that disruption report to be real small.
Okay, Mrs. Horn?
I think we need to do a better job taking care of our employees, so, I've heard from a lot of folks that, you know, they aren't, like Mr. Wheeler said, they aren't making any money to begin with, and then paying the premiums that they're having to pay for insurance. If this is something to me that it's critical, we need to take good care of our people.
If there's no other comment on this, Mr. DeBoer, I want to make sure that I make something very clear, at least for me, and I can't nor can I, would I speak for the rest of the board on this. I want you to know this is not, I don't have any issue at all with what you're doing. You're doing exactly what this board has asked you to do, which is to look out for our bottom line and make sure that we're getting the best health insurance that we can within the budget constraints we have and working with Todd. I want you to know that there is no dissatisfaction from me at all with regard to that. There's just some confusion and some improvement that I think that I'd like to see take place, and that's where this conversation is coming from. And again, I think it's great that you had some of the same thoughts, because I literally an hour ago said I want to get some of these things, I want to understand what the process is. So I want you guys to know I genuinely appreciate what you're doing. Cigna, I appreciate your partnership with this district, I really do. I mean, you guys are a highly respected insurance provider, and I understand that 100%. Before I even worked here, you guys were my insurance company, so I have no problem with that. I have no problem with the word profit. I have no problem with the fact that you guys are operating a business. All that is perfectly fine and great. I just want to make sure that as we're looking at what we're doing for this district, that it's not just the cost, but it's the cost, the quality, the access, all of those pieces coming together. And at some point, I recognize, I think you all do, something's going to have to suffer. And you know, it's maybe at this point, it's the access. It's how many doctors we have access to, our employees have access to. And that may have to suffer, but we have to just understand that it's all of those pieces coming together to make sure that we're providing the best, and this is a benefit, the best benefit to our employees. Okay? Board, if there's nothing else, we'll move on. Well, they're already, Mr. Will's question is whether or not we want to do an RFI. I mean, they're already looking at additional providers at this point.
Well, okay, I guess Mr. DeBoer will keep us appraised of that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you I thank you all for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you. Mr. Wheeler, you have one more item.
One last, college and career readiness. I see Sarah's been sitting here throughout the whole meeting. I'm glad you're here, Sarah. I was encouraged in yesterday's administrative back that this was one of the primary goals for this year for Mrs. Luciano. But having worked in our high schools for a number of years, in AVID, which is college readiness, I've seen a lot of AVID kids. I know kids all over the district who aren't college ready. I mean, relative to ACT, SAT test prep, to college application preparation, to essay. I mean, I've helped a number of these kids with their applications and with their essays. And if we're going to get serious about this, you know, with SAT and ACT test prep, what I've learned about that, it's test-taking tricks, but part of the problem we've got with these kids, we need to challenge their vocabularies. In high school, a lot of our kids don't do well in the verbal part. That's because they can take all the test prep they want. It's not going to broaden their vocabulary. It's going to teach them how to take a test. We need to be challenging these students, I think, more than we are, and I don't know how to do this. So I know there's the ACT and SAT test question of the day, which is great, but there's more things that we can be doing. Relative to essays, I've been an AVID, I've worked with kids, just so those you don't know, when you apply to college, they want an essay, and there's a prompt. University of Florida's prompt a couple of years ago was, explain how a challenge in your life that you've overcome will help this become a more diverse campus or a better campus for all the students here. And I had half of the seniors I worked with, the first half of the page was, they were restating the question. And I tell them, they know what the question is. Well, half the students I said that to got is, okay, I should redo it. The other half, well, they didn't want to do any more work, so they didn't do it. But the point is, if we're going to take this seriously, then we've got to get into the college entrance, college test prep, and college application business in a far more robust way than we are now, which is not a knock on anything our guidance counselors are doing now. If we've got any problem with our guidance counselors, there's not enough of them. I mean, the breadth, you get a high school guidance counselor with 600 kids. They could spend all day dealing with a young lady who thinks she's pregnant, and that could take precedent over everything else. They got to cancel everything else. So the point is, if this is going to be a real goal of ours, Ms. Luciano, I don't know how the rest of the board feels about it, but I'd like to see your roadmap to success, how we're going to get there. And I know that right now you probably don't have it. I don't expect it. But I think within the next 60 days, it's a realistic request. don't know how the rest of the board feels about it.
Let me just share with you that I know that Dr. Akes had a meeting with the administrators as well as Lisette and Mike, and that was a topic of conversation with those administrators, as a matter of fact. And he already has an agenda that was written up. The conversation happened yesterday, correct? Jan Ellis was there. So there is a roadmap that has been created already and will continue to be expanded, and we should be able to bring that to you.
And also, I mean, I just want to share, considering that we're graduating 3,000 to 4,000 students every year or more, it's surprising that so few are getting into and attending top-tier schools. Now, there's some. We had a young lady who went to Georgetown this year, a young man went to Amherst last year, a couple years ago, a kid went to University of Pennsylvania, we had kids go to Cornell, Naval Academy, et cetera. I mean, I'm not gonna say there aren't any, but we need to start building a legacy with a lot of those top-tier schools. And a lot of those top-tier schools, I talked with some people at Harvard recently, and I said, I'd like to work with you on, Homeless to Harvard, which is something, and they say, well, when a student applies, it's really a blind application. We don't know if they're rich, poor, whatever. We look at their academic credentials. But the point is, a lot of those schools, I mean, and I realize if we get a kid into Emory or Duke or whatever with bright futures and whatever else, they could probably go to school here for a lot less than they can in some other places. So University of Florida does capture a lot of those students because of economics. But there's a number of students that if we've got the wherewithal, the resources, and the knowledge, they could be applying to the Browns, the Harvards, the Stanfords, University of Chicago, Tufts, et cetera, and getting just about full rides because they want that type of an individual to help round out their campus, and they're super duper smart kids too. So, I think that we need to start looking at that as we're graduating so many students, what are we doing to get these kids in at the very, very best schools and build a legacy for ourselves where these schools are coming to recruit from us? And again, had you not had this as one of your primary objectives yesterday, and I talked to you about it briefly, so I'm going to bring it up. I'm thrilled that you brought it up, but now let's see the meat that needs to be on the bone for this. I don't know how the rest of the board feels about it, but I think that it's a great goal. I think I want to see how we're going to get there and what the plan is.
And Superintendent, you indicated you'll be bringing some more information forward on this? Okay. That satisfies me for the moment. I think it's a good topic of conversation.
Well said.
Good. Board, any other comment on any of that? Okay. Board, any other comments or committee reports tonight? Okay. Well, we'll stand adjourned.